he said, well, you're probably gonna feel like this forever, so you don't smoke weed. And like
God.
it made yeah, it made me feel 10 times worse because like I said, I believed it because no, like my brain was just so susceptible to believing anything. But like nothing else. Like he didn't like comfort me or like say anything, oh, you're gonna be okay. Like no, none of that. I threw up right then and there. And then like I walked out. I went out to the streets of Dublin. Like my DPDR was like at an all-time high. Everything was blurry. Like it was just like blurs moving around. I had to sit down like on the street because it was just so bad.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean O'Connor, author of the Depersonalization Manual, and today I'm speaking with May from New York. May is 19 years old. Last October, while living in Ireland, after a bad experience with a synthetic weed pen, she developed depersonalization disorder. She experienced symptoms like emotional numbness, disconnected thinking patterns, and feeling unreal. May struggled with DPDR and its symptoms for about 6 months. She and I had a Zoom coaching session back in November, and I remember seeing how distressed she was at the time. But fortunately, May has since made a complete recovery. As she wrote to me in a recent email, quote, "I would love to share my story and just wanted to thank you personally. I have my life back," end quote. And May is with us today to talk about her experience with and recovery from depersonalization disorder. May, you're very welcome to the channel. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. And you're very welcome to the channel. May, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is May. I am 19 years old, and I recently came into college and recently studied abroad in Ireland.
Okay, that's great. What were you studying? What are you studying?
Law.
You're studying law. What brought you to Ireland to study law?
I love Ireland. I've been obsessed with Ireland since I was like 16 years old. I just love like the community. I love the scenery. So I was like, if I have the opportunity to study there, I'll take it. It was like a dream of mine.
Right. And you were in Dublin, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
But I traveled
Um,
like all over.
you traveled all over the country, did you? Or yeah?
Like all over. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Um, so May, can you tell us a bit about your experience with DPDR and how did that start for you?
Hey, so I know our weed is like illegal in Ireland, but there's a shop that sells like a fake strand. So around like in September, like late September, me and my friend went to go get like a fake strand, like the pen, and it was good for a while. Like it wasn't anything like I didn't feel depersonalized until like the first week of October. I could feel like a shift, like my whole like mindset changed, but I really didn't think anything of it. But I did stop smoking until that Friday, which I think that was the 15th, maybe. On Friday, we went to the club and I took, I think, 2 hits from the pen and I drank like one shot, which is nothing like compared to like what I can do. Um, and I was completely like, I feel like I was out of this world. I was like stumbling, I was freezing cold. It was like the worst experience ever. And I could just like, yeah, that's kind of it.
Okay, okay. Um, so you were in the club and you took a hit off the pen, but it wasn't it was a like a synthetic weed pen, is that right?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and it hit you harder than you expected, right? Mm. So can you tell us a bit more about what that experience was like?
It felt like, oh, it didn't feel real. Like it felt like I was being like abducted. I know it sounds weird, but it felt like I was like out of my body. I just remember going into Supermax and just like sitting there and just like putting my head on like the table because I couldn't like talk. Like people, like I was just like completely like my body felt heavy. I was hot. I was like getting all these like philosophical revelations, which were like just like spur of the moment. And yeah, it was just really hard. I just remember feeling like I was dying, but I wasn't dying.
Yeah. For our international viewers, Supermax is like it's like the Irish version of McDonald's. But yeah, it's an Irish owned fast food spot. But yeah, a very scary thing when you take, and I had a similar experience with a bad weed experience as well, where you think you're going to like enjoy yourself and relax and have fun, and then suddenly you're kind of overwhelmed with like as you said, philosophical revelations, you and you don't know why that's happening. How, just out of curiosity, May, how did your friend get on with it? Did they have a similar experience, or what?
Not at all. She was shocked too because like I we both like we're not drinkers, but we both could handle our liquor, and we both took the same amount of hits. She probably took more than me. So it was like, what was going on? But she did help me out throughout the night. She took me outside of the club. She got me a jacket, all that stuff. She walked me back home. It was nice.
Okay, okay. So I remember um that with me, like I was kind of I waited for the weed to wear off. And in particular the night that I had my first panic attack, which was after I had the weed, or a couple of weeks later. When I first felt the feelings of DP, I thought I could sleep it off and I'd be okay. Did you have a similar experience when you went to bed?
Yes, I did. So I was like, I felt super drunk also. So I did sleep good. But the next morning was when it started. I was having like severe heart palpitations and severe anxiety. And I didn't know what was wrong. And like, I get heart palpitations sometimes. So I thought it would go away in like a couple minutes. It was the whole day. Like, my heart was like beating like irregularly to a point where I had to go to the hospital. So it did like kick in that day. And that week, it was just so bad.
Mm. So you actually went to the hospital?
Yes, I went to the hospital, I think, around 4 or 5 times.
Wow. Okay. But and especially on that first day, like that must have been so frightening because you're thinking like, why is this happening? Am I having a heart attack? Am I going to die? Yeah. So what? So when you went to the hospital, what did you speak to a doctor? Did you get tested, or what was that like?
They just spoke to me. I was just like, I told them what happened. Well, I couldn't tell them specifics because like I was in a abroad program and I didn't want to get in trouble. But I did tell them like enough where it was like they could put pieces together. And they just gave me sleep medication because I also like I had a thing where it's like every time I try to fall asleep, I feel like I was experiencing it all over again. If that makes sense. Like the whole like out of body experience. So they gave me sleep medication and it just told me it should wear off in the next couple of days.
Okay. And did it wear off?
No.
Mm.
I
Oh,
began like,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just saying I began questioning like everything felt very 2D and very like unreal.
Yeah. And were you still going to lectures at this point? What's that? What college were you in again, mate?
DBS.
DBS. So were you going to that? This is at Dublin Business School. So at this point, were you still kind of going to lectures and May and
I
pushing
had a
through
week
that? Or
off.
you had a week off. Okay. Okay. Um. And were you in contact? Because so how long had you been in Ireland at this point?
Like a month. Like I came in September.
Okay. So you're in a new country, in a new course, you're not there that long, and then you have this experience, and it just basically turns your world upside down. And so were you, and especially just kind of being that far away from home as well, can feel quite intimidating and scary. Um, so and was it in those couple of weeks as well, May, that did you keep going back to the hospital? What was that?
So I couldn't sleep. So the sleep medication actually made it worse. So I could not sleep. I was having like, I'm not a person that's very like spiritual in a sense of like like awakenings and stuff. Like when people take like mushrooms and stuff, I hate that feeling. I hate not feeling in control. So I felt like I was out of control. So it just ensued more panic. So I went to the hospital because I was constantly having panic attacks because I did not know what was wrong, and no one was really telling me. So yeah, I went to the hospital around 4 times that week, and I actually became prescribed Valium, which did help, and I had a smooth like 2 weeks after that.
Okay, okay. So you're prescribed Valium, and that helped a bit. Um, were you So then I presume you're you're back. You're like the you're back in college, where or, the lectures start back again. Um, Also, may at any point in this time, did you? It's like, were you talking to your friends about this? Were you describing the feelings,
Yeah.
or you were?
I was like only to one friend, just because it was the friend that was with me at the part, and she was very concerned. But like everyone else, I kind of kept it to myself.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's a very common thing that people do that. I mean, one of the reasons for which is that it's just really hard to describe. You kind of worry that, like, what if I've gone crazy? What if I've damaged my brain with the drug or whatever? None of which is happening. None of which is even possible. But it can certainly be a scary experience. Um, so so you started back doing classes, and the Valium had helped a bit. So what happened after that, May?
So I had started weaning. I started stop taking the Valium because like I felt like myself again. So I started stop taking the Valium, and then it was reading week, so it was like our break. I was planning on traveling to London to see a friend, and I was trying to get some sleep before like the plane ride. I could not sleep, and then it just started all over again. Like the feeling of just not being able to sleep again really like kicked it all over again to like the full extent where it's like I just couldn't handle it. Like it came like worse than it was before.
Yeah, yeah. So then the feelings kind of start ramping up again. And I presume you're thinking to yourself, like, what's going on? I thought this was finished. I thought I was done with this, and now it's coming back. I don't know why. Um, so did you end up going to London?
I did not. It was that severe. I have family in Ireland, so I stayed with my family for until I came back here. So, afterwards, I went to the hospital one more time, and as like I went, it was like I was a frequent visitor, so I was like a high priority, especially like in like the Irish healthcare system, it's very bad. But even though I was a high priority, it still took me like 5 hours to be seen. And even with that, like they took my blood, they took my urine, and I did get seen by a psych team, I think.
Mhm.
And they did talk to me, and this is really common, just gave me a little advice, and they did prescribe me Xanax.
So were they kind of discussing anxiety with you, May, as being the core cause of these feelings?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. And at any point did they discuss depersonalization, derealization?
very briefly. It wasn't really like, I just told them that I felt very like unreal. I felt like nothing was real. I told them this wasn't me.
Mm.
And they just said like that's a symptom of like the weed or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. Um, so you're back on medication. You have another. You've been to hospital again, and I presume you're kind of hoping at this stage that you can, start bringing it back down and get back to where you were before the trip to London. And so, how was that for you? Did you manage to do that?
I did not. It only got worse to a point where I was visibly like losing, like I think I lost 20 pounds. I was visibly losing like a lot of weight. I was very distraught. I was supposed to get my hair done. I was supposed to do my hair myself. Did not do my hair. I had no motivation. I was like really sad. I started like seeking help because then I started like doing my research, which did not help at all. So I started seeking help. I started going to like forums, seeking like professional help from like people who like have had DPDR, which honestly like none of them really helped until like I met you or met like your program. Like most of them, like I remember I paid like $600 one time because I was just like, when you feel like unreal and unlike yourself, you'll do anything to like change it back. Like I was a broke college student, I did not have the money, but I still like sacrificed that money just to feel like myself again.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. When you're in a state like that, you kind of feel, well, look, desperate times call for desperate measures, and you grab onto, and I certainly did this, kind of grabbing onto anything that feels like it can offer some bit of a solution. And like money is the last thing you're worried about, or you're just like, look, please just give me something that I can move towards. Um, when did you first find the term depersonalization? Some was that kind of through your own research, or just kind of were you just googling your symptoms and the word popped up, or how did that happen?
It was through my own research. I was like Googling my symptoms and it was what popped up, but I didn't believe it at first just because I was like, it might not be that severe. But yeah, it was through my own research.
Right, right. And so, and in this time as well, mate, you've mentioned a few of them, but can you tell us a bit more about the symptoms you were experiencing in this time? So, like, were the those kind of philosophical questions, were they kind of persisting with feelings of disconnection? Could you tell us a bit more about the symptoms?
So my symptoms were I felt like everything was 2D. Like I had irrational fears. Like I love nature. I love going outside, especially like in Dublin, like you have to go outside. But every time I went outside and looked up, like I felt like the sky was crashing down, or more so like the sky was very 2D, like that wasn't the sky. Um, I had fears about just regular things that like I would do as normal. I had fears about that. Um, I also had like disconnected philosophical thoughts. Like it was just like very like irrational thinking where it didn't even make sense if you like from now if you think about it, it's like that doesn't make any sense. But then like that was the only thing that made sense. Like nothing mattered. Like what's the point of being here? Like not in like a sad way, but in an unmotivated way. Like in a like what's my point here? Like what's my destiny? Like we're just dropped here, blah blah. Um I had really bad like heart palpitations. I had anxiety vomit, so I was always like throwing up if I thought too much. My vision was completely terrible. It was so bad. I could not see like 3, 4, 5 feet in front of me. Like everything was blurry. And also like I was very hyper vigilant. So like I think I read this somewhere where it's like my brain was always on like flight or flight mode. So like the most littlest thing I saw from the corner of my eye, I would register like I would pick it up very like quickly. So that and yeah, I was just very scared. Like I remember when I got back to the US, I started like trying to have my friends back, you know, dating or whatever. But like I was scared of that. I was scared. Like the first day I came back home, my family came to visit me. I was extremely scared of them. I felt like I wasn't real and I felt like disconnected from them. So it was really hard to like talk to them because it's like I didn't feel like I was there and I felt like this is like a nice moment. My whole family's here, you know, trying to talk to me, but I can't feel like the presence. And with dating, I just had like irrational fears. Like I'm a very like if everyone knows me as like a risky person, like I don't really think about the negative. I just like live fast. But like during that time, I was so like hell bent on like, what if he's a serial killer? What if like just thoughts that like don't make sense, but like just were always in my mind.
Yeah. So when we did our Zoom coaching session, mate, this was back in November. So would I be correct in saying that you went back to the States fairly soon after that? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that was quite a big decision for you, going back to the States because you temporarily dropped out of the course, or it was deferred. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So when you got home, um, you're, you're seeing your parents and your friends, and trying to get your like social life back and all the rest of it. Um, so at what point, May, did you? Oh, actually, one question I like to ask everyone. What was your lowest point in the whole experience? Is there a particular day or time or experience that sticks with you?
Yeah, I think it was the day that I had went to the one of the physicians, not the hospital, but a physician in Ireland, and I had went into their office and I was feeling very distraught at this point. Like, no, I was not. I'm the good child in the family. So, you know, I'm not a smoker, all that stuff. So it got to a point where I was exposing my business to like my family, like, hey, like I did this, even though like I would never have done that ever. But like I was exposing my business and I got into the clinic or whatever and I was bobbling, like I was dehydrated, I was like starved. So I was wobbling into the clinic and they saw me, like the physician saw me and he could see like how like anxious, like I felt like I looked like maybe like someone that was like addicted to drugs because I was so like jittery. I was so like I looked distraught. I just had woken up out of bed and just like went there. So after that, he was talking to me. He was the worst. Like I would rate him 0 stars. He was not helpful at all. He said, "Well, you're probably gonna feel like this forever, that's why you don't smoke weed."
Oh
And
my
like
God.
it made, yeah, it made me feel 10 times worse because, like I said, I believed it because no, like my brain was just so susceptible to believing anything. So I believed it, and like I was like I threw up right then and there, and then like I walked out of like this on the street because he didn't do anything. He just said, "Oh, so she's at the hospital," but like nothing else. Like he didn't like comfort me or like say anything. Oh, you're gonna be okay. Like no, none of that. I went onto the streets of Dublin. Like my DPDR was like at an all-time high. Everything was blurry. Like it was just like blurs moving around because like I was just so anxious. I threw up in like a it's like a restaurant, I think, like in the trash can in the restaurant. People were looking at me. I had to sit down like on the street because it was just so bad. So I think that was my lowest point.
Oh man, that's so um I'm so sorry to hear that. And this like a and this like a medical professional would say that. You just just get used to it. Like that's the no words of encouragement or motivation is that's uh uh that's incredibly frustrating and demoralizing. Yeah, I'm sorry that you went through that. Um so moving on to more positive days. How did your recovery start? What was the beginning of getting of reducing the anxiety and starting to get back to normal? How did it begin for you?
One was like starting to believe that I could get better, like watching your videos, watching like other videos on YouTube, then like stopping the research because the research did make it like way worse. So like stopping bad habits, getting like active, reading your book, I like can memorize, like I can recite some things verbatim from your book because I was reading it every single day, listening to the audiobook, following everything. And it did really help. Like I was on the more positive side of things. Like even though like my mind was constantly like full of like negative stuff, I still tried to like live life as normal. And I also started working with my mother. So I was constantly at work like every single day of the week. So it's like I had a distraction, even though it's like harder, I still had a distraction. Also, the Xanax was working with the anxiety. Like it wasn't as bad.
What does your mother do? What were you working at with her?
She's a manager at a nursing facility. So she's like a assistant director of nursing.
Wow, that's great. That's great, and I imagine that's a very gratifying thing to do, and a really good way to kind of take your mind off anxiety. You know, if you're working with people in a nursing home. Um, so so tell me more about the recovery process then, May. So that's the start of when you began to feel things were improving. What did recovery feel like? When did you start to have kind of hours or days where you thought, I'm not really thinking about this anymore? What did that process feel like?
So it felt really nice. I did have like hours where I would like go without thinking about it, mostly when I was distracted. So like I would constantly like try to get into stuff that I used to be into, like TV shows. Like I went back to like watching my childhood TV shows or like
Mm.
Modern Family, just to like get my mind and like watch something very lighthearted. And like I saw myself like growing more like laughter and more like happiness. I also decided to start going out. Like I met this guy and we started going out, even though like I had a point where I thought I had schizophrenia, so like that was something. But like I still like persevered and like went out and still tried to live my life, which also got my mind off of it. And yeah, like at that point, like before I came back to school, I was more so on the side of like existential thoughts. Like they were just, certain thoughts just would not go away. So yeah.
Yeah. What's happening with the with school? So you're on a break from the course in Ireland. Is that correct, or what's happening?
So I was supposed to be a study abroad person in Ireland for a year, and if I wanted to continue the year, I could add more years on top of that. But since I got sick, I just decided to stay like closer to home, which is in America, but still do my program in America.
Mm.
And yeah, so I did take, like, when I came back from America, I did not go to school. I did still have assignments, which was really hard to do. And I did end up failing my first semester of college because, like, it was just really hard to, like, focus on the assignments when, like, there was so much going on. So I did end up failing it, but I'm back in school and I am doing, like, a lot better.
Okay. So you didn't actually have to kind of like stop the course. You were able to continue it just from the States. You're still studying law. That's great. What field of law are you going to pursue? Is there a specific aspect of it?
I want to do juvenile law, juvenile justice, juvenile defense, like something like that.
That's great. That's great. Why so?
I love Law and Order and I love children and I feel like children are like the best thing like ever in the world. And I just feel like there's just a lot going on with them concerning like trafficking, like just certain like stuff that's going on. I feel like I want to be like a voice and an advocate on their behalf and defend them from like all that stuff. But yeah.
That's great. So part of recovery is kind of was getting back into being able to put all your focus on your studies again, and socializing again, and dating, and all that good positive stuff. That's great to hear. Um, and so now that you have recovered, May, um, uh, something that people always ask me is getting back to normal really getting back to normal?
It is. I like recovered recently, so I can say like it is getting back to normal. Like you'll start to realize that like your motivation is back. You're not really worried about like the philosophical things. Actually, I took that as a chance to like maybe get closer to like a different religion or something. Like I feel like you get 100% back to normal. I think you do get 100% back to normal. I think you just have to allow yourself to get back to normal. Because also, like, those thoughts of me, like, oh, like, what if I'm not getting back to normal? I feel like that also caused me to, like, stay in that DPDR because, like, I was constantly thinking about, am I normal? Am I blah, blah, blah? So, like, it didn't help my case.
Yeah, definitely. There's something that I always found that I found after I recovered was that it it was that like I constantly been checking on myself to see, was I feeling normal? Am I feeling normal yet? And what I realized during recovery was I needed to train myself away from checking to see if I was feeling normal, because people who aren't experiencing anxiety, they're not checking themselves to see if they feel normal. It's just that's just your kind of your baseline. Asking the question is just another form of anxiety. But that's great to hear this you've fully recovered and are back to normal, May. Um, how was the DP manual helpful in your recovery?
It was very helpful in terms of like just like the tips and tricks, like just like oh, like how to get better. The audiobook really did help because at a point I just felt like the comfort of just hearing someone that also experienced it was better than actually reading it. Cause I could hear like, you know, your voice and your personal experience. Like it just felt way more personal. Cause like no one I know of I like have ever experienced this. So it was like it felt more comforting. And yeah, like the meditation, the sleep thing that you play before you sleep, that helped a lot. And also like the chart, I think it was it called the chart where it's like, you know, were you active, were you social? That helped a lot to just keep myself on track.
Yeah, that's the recovery progress tracker. That people tend to find out that very useful. Um, and so we did a Zoom coaching session at one point as well. May was that something that you found helpful as well?
Oh, very helpful because beforehand, I had contacted like numerous other people. But like I felt like when I talked to you, I felt like okay, now I have like a little more hope. I feel like yours is more like personal, more like understanding. I feel like some of them just like try to like exploit. I don't want to say that, but more so like I feel like it's more so for the money factor inside of it. I feel like you were very sincere at like my recovery process. So I feel like that was when I started really having hope, like I'm gonna be okay. Especially after like seeing your website and like reading like the testimonials and all that stuff. I felt like I was like, okay, like, you're not like one in the 1%. Like you're not gonna be stuck like this forever. Like you'll get over this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's lovely for me to to think that like the last time I spoke to you was when you were in Dublin, and I remember speaking to you. I remember it was, you were quite distressed with the whole thing, and so it's just it's a joy for me to kind of chat to you a couple of short months later and see that you're completely recovered and things are absolutely back on track for you. So one last question for you, May. There's going to be people watching this interview who may be going through something very similar to what you went through. Maybe people who are experiencing panic and anxiety and DPDR after having an experience with a synthetic weed pen or a bad weed experience or whatever. If you could go back and have a chat with yourself right after this happened, or if you could speak to those people, what would you say?
That's gonna be okay. That like you just need people in your circle that are going to be there to comfort you, because comfort is a really big thing that helped in my recovery, is knowing that there's someone like by my side when I need to cry, when I'm overwhelmed. So I feel like you are going to be okay. You just need that comfort. And you really do need to push yourself. I feel like it's very easy to get stuck in like like I'm just going to be in my bed. I'm just going to watch more videos, like more videos about it. Because I saw myself stuck in that cycle at one point. But I feel like you have to like want to recover, like 100%. Like you might want to recover, but you still might half-ass like the actual action of recovering. You have to put like your all into it instead of like, because it does like, it's your mind. So you can't really play tricks on your mind, if that makes sense. Like pick up when you're like in bed and you're alone with your thoughts. Like it's not going to be like, oh, like, let's not think about it. It's going to think about it. So you constantly have to be distracted and constantly try to focus on bettering yourself.
Yeah, yeah. That's great advice. May, it's been so lovely to speak with you today. I am thrilled to see that you have recovered. I hope that you come back to Ireland someday, though. Don't
Oh, I
write
will.
Ireland
I
off.
will. I'm coming back.
Good, good, good. Yeah. Sorry, this things ended badly temporarily, but while you're over here, but you would be more than welcome to come over again anytime in the future. Yeah, it's been so lovely to have you on the channel today, May. I know there's going to be people who watch this and find it very inspirational and very helpful. Thank you for being with us on the channel today, and enjoy life post recovery, and enjoy what I'm sure will be an amazing career in law and juvenile law. Yeah,
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for everything.
it was a pleasure. Lovely to see you again, May. Have a great day. Okay.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.